Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we're continuing with the recovery in the Parsha, or the Torah of recovery, and trying to uncover certain insights to the lived experience of recovery and recovering in all of its various facets, in association with the light of the week, with the Parsha of the week, with the Or Hazman, and with the light and illumination that gives vitality to the times that we find ourselves in. Now, what I want to focus on is very simply the first pasuk of this week's Parsha, Ve'elu Toldos Yitzchak ben Avraham, Avraham holidas Yitzchak. And these are the offspring of Yitzchak, the son of Avraham, and it was Avram who had given birth, who had brought out Yitzchak. And so we see the pasuk begins with Yitzchak, and then it goes to Avram, and then it goes back to Avram, and then it goes back to Yitzchak. So we can say as follows, that when it comes to orienting ourselves towards what Yitzchak and Avraham represent, in a generalized way, we can say as follows. Avram Avinu represents chesed. It represents the willingness to extend beyond the self. It represents the giving quality of opening oneself up to the other without restraint, without boundary, without limitation. This was represented in the life of Avram Avinu, in the way that Avram Avinu engaged, as well as in the spiritual element of Avram that exists within each and every one of us. Avram is the tendency towards chesed and to expression. Yitzchak, on the other hand, is the tendency towards difficulty, towards minimization, towards limitation, towards gvuros, to measurements, to vessels that are placed in order to give dimension to the light of Avraham Avinu. The light of chesed, that energy that moves outwards, that desire for things to move in a very clear, understandable, manageable way at all times, that can grow and grow and grow and grow without any limitation, but it does not congeal into anything. Limitation, concealment, containment, vessels, that is what allows for the congealment of the light of Avram to actually express itself. Yitzchak, Gevura, doesn't only represent the capacity towards minimization or limitation in an abstract sense, but it also represents the very real reality of what takes place once we bring the concept of limitation into our minds. Limitation gives birth to concealment. Concealment gives birth to duality. Duality gives birth to differentiation. And then we fall into a place where we see separation and difference between a thing and its source, between something being expressed and the place from which it's being expressed. And when we begin to see splintering, when we begin to see differentiation and separation and multiplicity, we come to forget the unified source of all things. And that's specifically where the gvuros turn into dinim, they turn into judgment, they turn into harshness, and the moments of concealment in our lives, which through our conscious awareness of them are as real as anything else. They are the restriction, the pain, the difficulty that each and every person experiences, the fear, the pachad, yitzchak, all of those different things. It gives birth to misa, it gives birth to all of the concepts of what it means to be a human being in the most intensive ways. But this light of yitzchak, as we're going to see, and as we've been speaking about forever, this is all we've been talking about. We've all been talking about this nakuda of Yitzchak not only being the place of concealment, not only being the place of limitation, not only being the place of confinement, but Yitzchak also being the place of reorientation towards growth. Yitzchak is the incubator for intensity. Yitzchak is the secret of schoik. It's the v'tischak le'om macharon, as the Zohar Kadosh says, Elu Toldos Yitzchak, Elu Toldos haschoik de la'asilavo. This is the secret of the revolution that will take place in the future. And as the Leshem Shmuel B'Choloma points out, that the motivation and the intensification and the pulsation of all things is rooted specifically in the never not moving quality of gevuros, that gevuros are perpetually in a process of activity, and activity is perpetually in a process of creation, and creation is always in a process of evolution, and all of that is through the motivation and the engine of gevuros themselves. This secret of the intensity, the hamtakas adinim b'sharasham, that it's the very intensity and limitation that forces light to double itself, that forces light to become more intense. And it's specifically Yitzchak who's going to be the one who's Megala, the Geula. It's specifically Yitzchak who's going to teach us that we were capable of dealing with difficulty, with struggle, and coming out of that struggle, not the same as we were beforehand, but even stronger than we possibly could have. But ultimately, as beautiful and as wonderful as that light of Yitzchak is, as intense it is to find oneself at the polarities of life, to find oneself at the very bottom of the barrel, to find oneself in that place of Dir B'tachtonim Mamish, that light of Yitzchak, that light of the limit, that light of that bottom place where we find ourselves so often, the difficulties of our lives, the orientation towards difficulty, v'chule, et cetera, as intoxicating as that place might be, because it brings with it a more intense feeling, that bitterness that draws even sweetness into a more clarified space, like the Balatanya says. Nevertheless, there's a danger that if one comes to associate the power of life or the power of experience with only the side of the negative, not negative in the sense of a value judgment, but negative in the sense of the ontological reality of it, the act of the negative, that there's a negation that gives forth to all affirmation. It's the gevura that pushes the chesed into more of a relief. So then a person might come to find themselves stuck in this notion that on a certain level, choshech is higher than light, or that limitation is higher than infinitude. And while there's certain elements in the gevuros that are certainly higher than the chasadim, there's certain elements in limitation which demand a deeper expression of the infinite than chesed itself demands. But nevertheless, we have to continuously understand that the ikar and the fundamental motivating factor behind all things is the light of Avraham, is the light of chesed, is the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke the world into existence, and we say Baruch Sha'amar V'haya Ha'olam, that each and every day we affirm a radical affirmation that blessed is he who spoke and created the world, because everything in creation, in spite of what it appears to be, is simply the expression of Kavod Shemayim, simply the expression of the Or HaTov, Hatzafun L'Reyecha. It's the secret of that good light that is concealed for those who love you and those who wait for you. That Gevura is powerful. Gevura, being at the bottom, experiencing life at the edge, and that limit experience where experience is multiplied and magnified and intensified upon itself in the secret of Ezehu Gibor HaKoivesh Etz Yitzro, the secret of self-overcoming and breaking through boundaries and pushing against the limit. Nevertheless, if we lose context of the Or of Chesed, that has to be the fundamental principle at the heart of all things, then we might begin to just eat maror our entire lives. The person has to wait until after the maror to bring the matzah into the maror, because that's where Geula comes from. It doesn't just come from the maror itself. Yes, the maror and the Marirus of Yitzchak Avinu, and being at the bottom and coming up from the bottom and refining our lives because we stand at the limit at each moment. Nevertheless, it has to always be seen in the light of the chesed, of the fact that everything is good and everything is going to be good and everything is always good, because it began as good, it is good, and it's going to be good in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. That Or of Avram Avinu has to be the thing that we affirm in the morning and at the evening. During the day, when a person finds themselves in the world of Yitzchak Avinu, in the Toldos of Yitzchak Avinu, in those Toldos, that offspring that is going to bring about redemption, yes, that's very powerful. But if it's not done with the bedrock and the creation of the affirmation at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, of the chesed ke'al kol hayom, or amarti olam chesed yibana, or choik hatov lahetiv, that ultimately everything is for the good. Rebbeinu Shalom just wants to be mashpia tov on Klal Yisrael, and that hashpa'ah of tov comes about through our recognition and our demand of the choik hatov lahetiv, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to reveal that ultimate good. And that's the secret of b'cha choitmim. We say that yes, Avram Avinu, you had Yitzchak, and Yitzchak you had Yaakov, and all of the avos are equally powerful. Avram, which is chesed, gives birth to Gevurah, which gives birth to Tiferes. But in the end of the day, b'cha choitmim, it's specifically with you, Avram Avinu, that we're going to be choitim, because it's only b'chesed, and it's only b'rachamim rabim, and it's only in the rachamim pshutim and the levoinius hamayach, and that whiteness and clarity of the mind that is capable of seeing beyond all of the confusion and all of the black noise that penetrates into the depths of our hearts. Sometimes we have to remember that there's a place even deeper than those depths that remains silent in the whiteness of it all, and that chavira kakaspin, and that clarified, purified light of whiteness, as we enter into the base of Lavan Ha'arami, as we enter into that place of the Luban Ha'elyon, the Parshios of trying to draw down that light of Chesed, that light of Shiduchim, from the highest place imaginable, from the house of Lavan, from Lavan Ha'arami, from that secret of Lavonius, of clarity, of purification, of going to a place beyond all differentiation, quieter than all of the noise. It's a quiet that is as loud as any of the loudest noises can be. It's a quiet that deafens all of the noise of Rome, and it quiets all of the noise of the outside. And in that place, in the Lavonius Hamayach, in that place of the Chesed that's Lavan, like the day, like the shining brilliance of the sun, we can draw down the light of Chesed Ke'al Kol Hayom, and we could mahapich all of the Gevuros, all of the Schreik Di Yitzchak, to reveal the Az Timali Schreik Pinu Shanein Arena, and the secret of V'tischak Le'amacharon, which is the secret of Mashiach Sidkenu, which is the Yichud of Avram and Yitzchak and Yaakov, to be Megalazain on the secret of David Malka Mashiach on Moshe Rabbeinu, and to be Zeicha, to elevate ourselves ever so slightly out of the stuckness of each and every moment. Ad Bias Goyal Tzedek B'mhera B'yameinu Barachim Rabim Be'ezras Hashem.